Hi, I'm James McNutt, a librarian in the User Experience Department of the Darien Library. It's not often we get the opportunity to interview a National Book Award winner, but we did in the video coming up. Unfortunately, many authors these days have become so proficient and scripted at interviews, it's as though they've gone Hollywood in the self-promotion department. But not the author you're about to see. There's something about him, call it charm, or humility, or gratitude for his good fortune, that makes him a cut above the rest. Or maybe it's his enchanting Irish accent. You decide.
The winner of the 2009 National Book Award in Fiction is Colum McCann.
I want to paint a photograph for my reader and then her or him to step into that photograph and move it along for themselves. And then they go on their own journey. It's not mine anymore. And that's what you do with language. And readers can be infinitely wiser than the writer is.
Did I like the country?
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, I was 21. I took a bicycle and I was amazed by the generosity of people. I had all sorts of crazy situations. I stayed with Amish people in Pennsylvania. I stayed with poor families down in Alabama. I was in New Orleans. I saw Native Americans in Gallup, New Mexico. Rich people in Colorado who looked after me. A whole vast, full, very vibrant democracy. And I grew up and I loved it. And I sort of enjoyed every minute of it. Yeah, I have to say it was a fantastic journey. I even went back and I walked across Ireland a couple of times, and I never met in Ireland. I walked from Belfast down to Kerry and Dublin to Galway, and I didn't meet quite the same. Well, maybe I wasn't quite as quote-unquote exotic when I was in Ireland. People would look at me and say, "What the hell are you doing walking from Dublin to Galway? There's a bus for crying out loud." No, this country was very, very welcoming. There's never one particular point where you say absolutely that this is what it was going to be for me. I mean, in my early 20s, I started to write fiction. But in my teens, I was reading Kerouac and Ginsberg and Ferlinghetti and the rest of that crew, and the whole prospect of a writing life, certainly life as a journalist, was very interesting to me. But going even further back, my father was a writer, and he used to go out into the shed in the corner of the house in our house in Dublin, and you'd hear him typing away, boom, boom, boom. And one time when I was about 9 years old, I think, or maybe 8 years old, and in particular I remember it came out then, it was very good, it came out and was a big bestseller in England. It was read by our school teacher, Mr. Kells, in class, read aloud on a Friday as a treat if we'd behaved ourselves. And I remember the boys in the class, one of them in particular, jumping up on a desk when the main character of the book scored a goal. And I thought, isn't that weird? Because that was created in my dad's writing shed, you know, with a tip, 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 tip of a typewriter. And now, here I am a year later with a boy jumping up in the air and celebrating a goal. I'm kind of tired of writers drawing attention to their own suffering. So I'm interested, yes, in Fitzgerald's suffering. I'm interested in Faulkner's suffering and in Hemingway's. But when you start getting interested in your own, that's sort of problematic. Because, you know, I always say it's tough to be a writer, of course it is, but it's tough to be a police officer, you know? It's tough to be the lady who's going to have to clean this room later on tonight, or the guy who's going to have to clean this room later on tonight. And there are all sorts of ways that sort of toughness manifests itself. Virtually every single book I've ever written, I've gone into crisis mode and thought, this is it, throw it away, it's no good, and then the next day you recover, and then somehow you finally get to the end, and you think, oh well, yeah, it's all right, let's see, and then you start to polish it, and then some days you think it's the greatest thing ever, and then the next day you turn around and realize it's not.
I come here, I live here, and I want to be accepted on my own terms, yet I want to own my Irishness too.
If you were to put a gun to my head and ask me what sort of writer I was, I'd say I'm absolutely an Irish writer, if I only had one answer. And then where do I come from? Well, I come from Ireland. Where do I live now? I live in New York, so I'm an Irish New Yorker. But the one thing that really interests me about having the second passport is that the generosity that's given to a writer from abroad in this country is really extraordinary to me. So that, like, you can come from Sarajevo and be named Alexander Heyman and live in Chicago and be accepted as both an American writer and a Bosnian at the same time. Juno Diaz can be accepted as being from the DR and from the United States at the same time. Edwidge Danticat, the list goes on. I'm one of those people who received that generosity. I'm allowed belong to my own country and belong to this country too. There are not many places in the world, if any other places in the world, where you're allowed to hold that sort of dual thing. That's a form of generosity that makes me interested in holding the two different passports. I will tell you though, and this is a terrible admission, I put my purple Irish passport over the blue one as I go through various lines, just to sort of say, you know, this is me. But my kids also have two passports as well.
That's telling. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.